The presidential report card for President Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was born and raised in Arkansas, where he lived with his mother, abusive stepfather, and half-brother. He attended Georgetown, Oxford, and Yale, and in 1975 he married Hillary Clinton. 5 years later, they had a daughter named Chelsea. He taught law at the University of Arkansas and was elected Attorney General in 1976. He was then elected governor in 1978, and throughout his political career, he was accused of many affairs. As chief legislator, Clinton had a rocky relationship with Congress, because Clinton was a Democrat and the majority party was Republican. He found himself constantly in budget fights with them. Despite their differences, some helpful legislation was passed. For example, the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, the Omnibus Reconciliation Act of 1993. He created AmeriCorps volunteer programs. He increased minimum wage. When it comes to other criteria, Clinton does not do a very good job. He had an extramarital affair with White House intern Monica Lewinsky. He began the highly controversial military policy regarding homosexuals in the military called Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He was impeached by the House of Reps in December of 1998, and after a month-long trial, the Senate acquitted him of all charges. He accepted the verdict and called on the nation to begin a new period of reconciliation and renewal. During his time in the White House, the country went through 2 government shutdowns, and he also joined President FDR as the only 2 Democratic presidents in the 20th century to win re-election. So, in other criteria, we would give President Clinton a D. This is because of such negative aspects of his time in office, such as his affair with Monica Lewinsky, the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, and his attempted impeachment from the office. The only bright spots and accomplished. By increasing the number of women and minorities that were appointed, he made a statement that he was taking steps to reduce discriminatory practices and thereby executed another goal, without having to pass laws. While he did carry out all these helpful tasks, he showed how poorly the government functioned during the end of 1995 and 1996, when the government shut down 2 separate times because of government disagreements that remained unresolved. As the chief of party, Clinton was able to win re-election, and he still continues to help fellow Democrats win election. However, his party lost the midterm election, and the continuous divided government led to government shutdowns. For chief of party, we would give Clinton a B+. This is because President Clinton won re-election for the first time since FDR's administration. However, his party lost the midterm election in 1994. Because he let the Republicans take power, which is a pretty big deal, the grade went down significantly. He had no other majorly positive actions that could make up for his deduction, and therefore he remains with a B-. As chief diplomat, President Clinton was a major player in the talks that were held in Oslo, Norway that resulted in the Oslo Accords. He also played a significant role in the negotiations that took place between Great Britain and the Irish Republican Army's Gerry Adams that would eventually be successful and end in a depletion of the terrorist group's depletion of its weapons stockpile and a lasting peace in Northern Ireland. Clinton also signed the World Trade Agreement that created the World Trade Organization in 1994. He was a signatory of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in September of 1996. However, the Senate refused and accomplished. By increasing the number of women and minorities that were appointed, he made a statement that he was taking steps to reduce discriminatory practices and thereby executed another goal, without having to pass laws. While he did carry out all these helpful tasks, he showed how poorly the government functioned during the end of 1995 and 1996, when the government shut down 2 separate times because of government disagreements that remained unresolved. To ratify, claiming it put the country's national security in danger. He also endorsed and signed the North American Free Trade Agreement in an effort to remove tariff barriers between the United States, Canada, and Mexico in December of 1993, which was passed by Congress even though it was almost half of the 250 Democrats in the House were in opposition to it due to concerns that it would lower wages and outsource American jobs. Also, in his 1998 State of the Union address to Congress and the nation, President Clinton declared that the United States had set a good example for the rest of the world, that if America wanted its ideals of freedom and democracy to spread and stick to nations all around the world, we must be a leader in the international community that leads the charge for change in countries with oppressive governments. In a 1992 presidential debate between himself, George H.W. Bush, and Ross Perot, future President Clinton replied to a question asked by Bush, in effect saying that we must use our unique position in the world to be a force for democracy and freedom by maintaining a strong national defense and rebuild our economy at home. As chief diplomat, we would give Bill Clinton an A-. This is because he did a very good job regarding foreign policy and dealing with international incidents during his 2 terms in office. Thus, an A or even an A+ would seem appropriate. However, he did have his misses, such as the situation that quickly developed in Somalia, where 2 U.S. Special Forces Black Hawk helicopters were shot down and 18 Americans killed, including one which was dragged around the city. Also, while the rest of the world watched in horror, when the dominant tribe in the African country of Rwanda killed an estimated 800,000 people, the president and his advisors sat idly by and did almost nothing to stop the horrific Marriage Act and the Taxpayer Relief Act. As chief legislator, we would give Bill Clinton a B-, because although he was in constant battles with Congress, Clinton was still able to pass some legislation that was beneficial to the people of the United States. As guardian of the economy, Clinton was responsible for proposing the first balanced budget in decades. He also set the record for the longest peacetime expansion. Despite difficulties with Congress, he was able to reach an agreement with them when regarding tax cuts and reductions in spending. For this reason, we would give Clinton a B+ as guardian of the economy, because although he did have some difficulty with dealing with Congress, he was able to achieve the longest peacetime record. He proposed the first balanced budget in decades, and he even created a budget surplus in the United States. As Commander-in-Chief, Clinton was responsible for creating a defense policy, dispatching bomb Iraq when Hussein stopped UN inspections of nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. He helped expand NATO, international trade, and the campaign against drug trafficking, and he also balanced the federal budget. However, he downsized the military by about 30%. He took too long to figure out how to distribute a demanding workload fairly. He took no action to stop the slaughter that occurred in the Rwandan Civil War, and he attempted to strengthen the democracy in Haiti by forcing the Haitian strongman to step down. However, the democracy remained weak. As Commander-in-Chief, we would give Clinton a B-, because although he deserves credit for his defense policy, his defense team did not do a good job at managing military morale. This caused the U.S. troops to become overworked and demoralized due to downsizing the military. Many troops left the army after this. Downsizing the military also weakened it as a whole. He did do a good job of making it. As the head of the state, Bill Clinton came into office with a 55% approval rating, and he left with a 65% approval rating from the public. He was able to find the William J. Clinton Foundation to promote and address international causes such as the prevention of AIDS and global warming. Some things that brought his approval rating down were the approval of the NAFTA, the failure of the healthcare initiative, and the grounds of his impeachment. We gave Clinton a B+ because he overall maintained a good public support, despite some difficulties surrounding his presidency. His attempted impeachment had little overall effect on his rating, and Clinton generally had good approval ratings with the public. As chief executive, Clinton remained organized because of the balanced budget. He also made appropriate appointments to the Supreme Court. When it comes to other criteria, Clinton does not do a very good job. He had an extramarital affair with White House intern Monica Lewinsky. He began the highly controversial military policy regarding homosexuals in the military called Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He was impeached by the House of Reps in December of 1998, and after a month-long trial, the Senate acquitted him of all charges. He accepted the verdict and called onto the nation to begin a new period of reconciliation and renewal. During his time in the White House, the country went through 2 government shutdowns, and he also joined President FDR as the only 2 Democratic presidents in the 20th century to win re-election. So, in other criteria, we would give President Clinton a D. This is because of such negative aspects of his time in office, such as his affair with Monica Lewinsky, the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, and his attempted impeachment from the office. The only bright spots include that he was the only second Democrat president re-elected to office in the 20th century. For an overall grade, we would give Bill Clinton a B- as our president. Thank you.